1, 2,
Welcome to the Mental Reps podcast, featuring your host, Wright.
What's your most surreal moment, man? When you were looking around in a room and saying, I can't believe I'm having dinner with Dan Marino, or I'm on the Miami Heat parade.
Our guest this episode is host of Hochman and Crowder, Marc Hochman.
I was at an event once, somewhere in Miami. Someone came up to me and he said, I've got O.J. Simpson's number if you want it. I was like, okay, yeah, I'll take it. Took the number and I called him out of the blue. And sure as shit, he answered the phone. It was unmistakably OJ.
This week's episode is sponsored by the Field Irish Pub and Eatery, a little piece of island in South Florida.
OJ, yeah. My name is Marc Hochman. I'm a producer for a radio show in Miami. Cut me off. Hey, man, appreciate the phone call, but I'm not doing any radio interviews. And I said, okay. I was just calling to check. Dan Le Batard wanted me to reach out to you. And he goes, oh, Dan Le Batard? That guy's the only guy that was fair to me throughout all of this stuff. He's like, I would do it for Dan.
As well as elite sanitizing services, keeping South Florida clean and in business.
He said, I will call you 2:30 on Friday. And I remember sitting there with Dan, 2:25, going, is this guy going to call in? And sure as shit, 2:30, phone rang, and it was OJ.
Now fade out that fresh as Pete, and let's get this bitch on the road.
Welcome to Mental Reps Podcast. I'm Brian Wright. What's up, fam? I hope you're happy and healthy. Thank you for all the birthday wishes this last week. Really appreciate them. I was actually out of town. I had an interview lined up for you, but it got canceled. I already had plans to leave town the next day, so sorry I missed you last week. The plan is to never miss a week again. Even if I have to go out of town or something, I'll get one released. Thank you so much for listening, watching, supporting the show in all the ways. Really cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Following us on all the social medias. Please keep sharing the podcast with your friends. This is a grassroots operation, baby. So every little bit helps. You can also email the show at mentalrepspodcast@gmail.com. Really can't thank you guys enough, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. My guest today is host of Hochman and Crowder on 790 The Ticket and 560 The Joe, Marc Hochman. This dude's been covering sports here in South Florida for over 15 years. He's got a great show on in the afternoons with another buddy, Channing Crowder. He used to produce the Dan Le Batard show on 790 back in the day. That's where I first heard of him. And he and Dan changed sports radio forever, man. I've never heard anything like it. I knew it was something special when I first heard it. It's just this amazing balance of some great journalism while also not taking themselves too seriously, goofing off, kind of a shit show. It just added to all the charm of the show. And he tells some great stories about that in our chat. But about 6 or 7 years ago, he took the leap on his own show with Crowder, and the rest, as they say, is history. They've been gracing the airwaves down here in South Florida ever since. I love how goofy they are, man. Can't overstate it. It's just a really fun hang, very much like our conversation today. I always enjoyed running into Marc at the radio station. He's a great family man, zero drama, always a good hang. So I really hope you enjoy my chat with Senor Hochman. But first, oh, good grief, you good lad. Don't you know South Florida's authentic Irish Pub and Eatery, The Field? They are official sponsors of Mental Reps Podcast. Of course, go to thefieldfl.com and enter code word REPS20 for 20% off your online order. It's like a quaint little Irish oasis, a piece of Ireland right here in South Florida, run by some amazing people, bringing you the best, safest, authentic Irish experience here in South Florida. I'm telling you, the rest of these so-called Irish pubs in South Florida, they're just always going to be second best. I know them some fighting words, but I stand by them. We're talking full bars, Jameson, the best damn Guinness I've ever tasted, Smithwick's Irish car bombs, plus of course, authentic Irish American cuisine, shepherd's pie, the corned beef, the cabbage, Irish potato soup, their Irish dip sandwich. It's kind of a thing of beauty. I'm a freak, so I take that au jus, mix it in with the horseradish. So damn good. They also have steaks, chops, fresh seafood, something for the whole crew, plus live music 5 nights a week with real Irish music, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. They are extremely safe with the whole Pandy guidelines. Aren't cutting any corners there. It's as safe as it gets. So please go stop by the field and tell them we sent you. It's at 3281 Griffin Road, Fort Lauderdale, 954-964-5979 is their number. If you aren't feeling up to going out yet, just go to thefieldfl.com and enter code word REPS20 for 20% off your entire online order. They'll even bring it out to the car for you if you'd like. So please go take advantage of that. That's 20% off, man. And they've got some mason jars and growlers there as well, so you can drive off with some booze, which of course, again, super cool and acceptable now. Just wait until you get home to pop it open, damn it. The Field is the Irish capital of South Florida. I stand by that. Go to thefieldfl.com, enter code word reps20 for 20% off your entire online order. And we also have our very first live event coming up at the Field on September 14th. I cannot wait for this. I'll be joined by amazing comedian and friend of the show, Brett Ernst, who's now in Cobra Kai. Again, he's got the new season coming out. They just released season 1 and 2 on Netflix, I believe, so go check that out. As well as a national champion offensive tackle from the Miami Hurricanes 2001 season, the best team in college football history. I don't even think that's debatable. He also went on to play, I think, 6 or 7 seasons in the NFL, has an amazing backstory. So they will be there taking questions from the audience. We'll be giving out some prizes, some merch. We're going to play some games and get the crowd involved. 2 awesome guests coming out. It's going to be a ton of fun, so I really hope you come out to the Field on September 14th. It's going to be a good time. Also, here's another great company run by amazing people. If you're looking for local sanitizing services here in South Florida, call ESS Elite Sanitizing Services. They're state licensed and insured, offering local sanitizing services, which kill 99.9% of all the bacteria and viruses, including COVID-19. They actually provided their services to the Field. Again, super safe and clean. If you need to keep your property, employees, customers safe and virus-free, let them help keep you in business, keep your employees working. They offer services for schools, churches, medical facilities, offices, aircrafts, yachts, public transportation, restaurants, gyms, homes, vehicles, and a lot more. It's kind of like you're running them through a big Purell machine. And now they're offering free sanitizing to vehicles of all first responders and medical professionals, which I just think is like a really cool thing for them to do. So please give them a call, 1-800-763-4299. Visit them at elitesanitize.com or email them at info@elitesanitize.com. Elite Sanitizing Services, keeping South Florida safe and in business. All right. This is for all the South Florida sports fans who listen to the show. You're going to dig this one. Enjoy my chat with Marc Hochman. I'm joined today by the South Florida Hebrew Hammer, the Jew you wish you knew. It's Marc Hochman. What's up, buddy?
What's up, babe, man? I'm good. I've never had that intro before. I like that.
You like that? I thought you might like that. How you doing, man? I haven't seen you since the beginning of this whole damn pandy. How you been? How's the family? How's Lori, the kiddo?
Everybody is good. Family's good. Yeah, I haven't seen many people since March. That was around the last time that we were at the radio stations in the actual facility, beginning of March. And I remember when they said, and I'm here, this is my home studio. I remember when they said, you're going to do the show from home. And I remember telling my radio partner, Crowder, everybody knows, yeah, I'm guessing 2 weeks, 3 weeks tops. Yeah. And then we'll be back. They'll get everything clean. I was very naive, obviously, as to just how serious the pandemic was going to be. And then fast forward, it's August. And they say, they had originally told us maybe plan on being back in the studio in September. And then about a month ago, they said, nah, probably 2021. And it's just the new reality. But yeah, I had no idea. I really thought, because I remember they canceled the basketball games again, beginning of March. And it was it was the Rudy Gobert game. And then I said, I remember saying like, yeah, it's going to be like 2 weeks, 3 weeks layoff, and then everything will ramp back up.
Yeah, man. I know. Who could have thunk it? I mean, honestly, yeah, there's a lot of people saying, oh, yeah, we knew it was coming and we should have been more prepared. And yeah, of course, hindsight's 2020. We would have done a lot of things different, I imagine. But man, who could have thought that it would last this long and how much it's hurt, so many different industries, let alone the radio industry. And yeah, man, just like miss seeing you around campus, having random debates about turkey legs and like ketchup versus mustard and shit. But I genuinely happy you've been able to keep working throughout this whole thing. And I heard even throughout all the madness, well, Birdie told me you just signed a new multi-year extension. So that is beautiful, and it's very well deserved. Very happy to hear that, man.
I did, and yeah, I knock on wood because
Right.
I understand, and I get it from the texters, and when the pandemic first started and everything was really closed, we would bring on local business people that weren't even advertisers, just to help out. And I would say to my wife and whatnot, like, we're very lucky here because, and I took all of us at Entercom took a pay cut for a while. They're back to paying us full salaries, but everybody,
That's
but
good.
I said, a lot of people lost their jobs, man. A lot of people lost everything. And so, and I always keep that in check too. When I say, hey, follow the rules and, social distance, don't go out. You don't need to. No, I go, you know what? Real easy for me to say that when I kept my job and I'm able to do my job from home. And, I know that there's, people not in that situation. So I keep that all in check. And I go, this is really a difficult, unprecedented time for so many people out there. So I'm as understanding as I can possibly be to, or at least I try to be, to anyone's particular situation, because they're all different.
No, most definitely. Well, I'm just happy to see that, at least there's some justice still left in this world, that there are some people that are still able to keep their job. Obviously, so many being, like you said, hurt in so many different ways that it's hard to even measure that. But I think it could be good for some, that they'll be able to kind of come out of this a little more clear-headed as far as what they want out of life. I mean, it's been kind of just like a big reset button for so many of us that, I mean, as far as myself, it's been giving me more time to focus on this podcast and voiceovers and other stuff that I've got going on. Finally being able to do live events starting in the next month or so, hopefully early mid-September. So we're all kind of like getting there. But I really quick, before we got into everything, I wanted to I know I told your wife this story, Lori, when we were at the Intercom party, but I think I told you. Do you remember how we met?
Well, you told me. I didn't remember. You could tell the story, but you told me the first time I think that I saw you at QAM.
It was
Wasn't it up
back
in the
in it was
loft?
back in the Miami Heat championship run, and you were with Lebitard, and you were at some place up in Coral Springs. I forget what it was. It was like a bar or something. And this is why I tell the story, because it was a while ago. I met you and Dan, and I had just gotten out of like a relationship. I was engaged to get married. I owned a pharmaceutical supply company, and I was not happy with what I was doing in life. I just happened to stumble in there and saw you guys, and I was a listener. I've been listening, since the fake calls and Roy's top tens and all that stuff. So I went in there and met you guys, and I've always wanted to get into radio. And you guys could not have been nicer. You were like, you just broke up, man. You got kind of a new lease on life. Why don't you go for it? And you both encouraged me, like, really cool. You didn't have to. And I know you probably have a lot of people come up like that, but I actually followed through with it and did it. And you guys, oddly enough, it took kind of, a couple dudes that I respected to tell me, hey man, go for it, in order for me to actually take the leap. So I gotta, I always like to point that out and say, hey man, I appreciate that you gave me a little bit of that courage and confidence to do it, because I respected you guys a lot. And to hear that come from you, it meant a lot to me.
Yeah, glad it worked out, because it could have been total disaster.
I know, right? I was talking about
this would be a whole different podcast.
I know. I was talking about that with Kimba. I was like, what do you recommend for anybody who's trying to get into the radio business? She's like, run. I was like, yeah, it's probably-
even just the amount of time that you've been in it. I mean, over when the Lebitard show started, it was 2004. So now it's 2020. So 16 years. Just the amount of change over these 16 years has been dramatic. When I first got into radio, I just graduated I went to University of Miami 87 to 91. And in 89, 90, I interned at B96 in Chicago. It was the flame throwing top 40, huge station in Chicago. It was in the CBS building downtown in the city. It was the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
And just since then, so 1990, when I really started to be around professional radio, to see what it's become 30 years later is staggering.
I know I have friends who, I still don't think they quite understand. It's like when I would go on the Shark and they're like, so how do you pick your songs? And how do you, I'm like, I wish it was like that back in the 70s. It's like smoking cigarettes. All right, coming up next is spin some records. But yeah, things have changed like quite a bit. But again, that's kind of our job to try and adapt the best we can, right? And I think that's what everybody's trying to do right now.
Yeah, I say it. Look, what would I love? I would love a world, and I'm not just talking about radio. I'm talking about clothing stores, big box retailers. I would love a world where there wasn't so much consolidation. So back in the day when I started, there was one owner for an FM and an AM, maybe in the same market. So if there were 15 radio stations, you generally had 15 different ownership groups. And consolidation changed the game. Obviously, now most cities, you have maybe two major companies that own all the radio stations. Newspapers, obviously, are a completely different story. But, consolidation to me hurt a lot of stuff. So I would love to go back. But when you say, talk about adapting, so it is what it is. You work within the parameters that you're given in whatever the industry is, and as it changes, you try to change best with it, and you try to be maintain your spot as a meaningful part in it. And if you lose a couple rungs on the ladder, you climb hard to try to get back to where you want to be. And I mean, that's the reality that everybody faces in whatever industry they're going into, whether it's being an entrepreneur and trying to figure it out yourself, or whether it's working for a large company and trying to make your mark within that large company. Like, you work within the parameters that you're given. And when those parameters no longer work for you, it's a sign. You move on, But you were saying, like, the pandemic has been a moment of clarity for a lot of people. But I really do believe that. Not just people, like the Earth. The Earth breathed for 6 months, right? Like
dolphins swim back in canals.
Yeah. Like everything got to reset a little bit. So I don't know. Try to look at the positive of everything, right?
Right. Absolutely, man. That's why I'm trying to stay in the grateful mindset. Like there's a lot of other people that have it a lot worse than me. And the fact that I got a roof over my head, I still have, the ability to do some things that I got to just be grateful and happy that I still have that.
Got those pipes. Got the pipes.
I try to, dude. I got them from Pops. You should hear my father talk. Yeah, I got them from him too. But yeah, man. What'd you say?
He's commanding, got that commanding voice.
That's the first thing that shout out to Mr. West, my teacher at Connecticut School of Broadcasting. He's like, you got that dad voice, dude. He's like, you got that dad voice. I was like, yeah, you should hear my father. It's even worse. But yeah, man, I'm so happy to see you doing well. And I know just personally, as a fan of your show, back in the day when you were with Dan and I heard that you were making the switch, I was like, oh man, I was trying to wrap my head around it because I knew you'd be able to do that and you'd nail down that spot. But I was like, how is it going to work? And is it going to work with Channing? Dude, it is so great listening to you guys do your things, especially now after all this time, you guys gelling together. You work so well together, and the goofiness, man. Like, I love the goofiness and you guys keeping it light. You don't take yourself too seriously. Like yesterday when you were talking to Brady Quinn, first of all, the audacity of that guy.
on the Hurricane Station,
dude, to come on. And I was in that game that he was talking about. It's in South Bend about 4 years ago. I was at that game.
Miami could have won that game.
We could have won the game. Yes, they were up early in the game, but we came back, made a real game of it in the third and fourth quarter, and he's acting like, they just destroyed us. It's like, buddy, what world are you living in? But I like the way that you guys keep it light, and I just really appreciate that. I wanted to ask you, before we got into some more sports, and I wanted to ask you very quickly about your past and what were you doing? I know you said you went to University of Miami, which it was a dream of mine. what was that like, and what were you doing? You said that you went back up to Chicago before you started working at Waxy.
Yeah, so I went to University of Miami to study broadcasting, and on campus, and I saw this. It was like, one of those flyers, join the campus radio station. I didn't know anything about radio really. I knew that I liked listening to radio, and so I went to this meeting, and I was like, oh, this sounds kind of cool. I could do this. I could. Talk show, wasn't sports, wasn't any of that stuff. It was just playing music. And so I auditioned. I mean, we were playing legitimate records, record albums.
Damn.
And I got a shift room, and they said, it was the program director, a student, and he said, we're going to give you a shift. It's Thursdays, 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. Nice. And it was one of the few college radio stations that was 24 hours. And my roommate thought I was insane. Fake Howard from the Levitard show was my roommate.
Okay.
Yeah, it all winds together.
Small world, yeah.
And he thought I was insane. And I would, take my notebook or whatever, and I'd leave the dorms. I lived in Pearson, and I'd walk across campus, get over the student union where the radio station was, 1 a.m. on Thursday nights. And those 3 hours, I just loved it. I just loved it. Yeah. Playing music and talking a couple times an hour, in between the records. And so then I started pursuing radio more as a track than TV. And I ended up applying for an internship in Chicago because that's where I was from. So I would go back every summer, and B96 had interns. I applied for an internship. I got it. I got to be around big time professional radio for the first time in my life. I knew campus radio. I didn't know big time professional radio. When I tell you it was the CBS building, they had, the television station on one floor, for old people like me, Siskel and Ebert doing At the Movies on another floor that was produced there, and the radio station was on another floor. And I got to meet these DJs that were, air personalities that were real, like making real money in the third largest market in the nation. And I just got the radio bug, at that time. And I said, I'm going to pursue this because I like it. I like performing with my voice, and I love music. And, I had a long, strange path in music radio up until Dan talked me into coming to sports radio, which I had no interest in and no designs on ever, and then just kind of fell into it.
That's interesting. I started off and I got into this doing sports, and I kind of fell into doing news and becoming a news reporter and then anchor. And because the reason I kind of accepted that was because I was able to cover the Dolphins at the same time. And then, all these other kind of opportunities came up where I found to get on air and doing music. But talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind, about without having any of the sports background. So you had the University of Miami degree, you've been on air, you had some experience. Talk about going from that transition into doing sports. Did it help having, like you said, Dan there who kind of pushed it and said, I think you'd be great in sports, or did you have to talk anybody into that since you didn't have any experience, or what?
So I love music. And always fancied myself as the DJ, the jock that was I love doing nightclub appearances and stuff. Yeah. And the ones and twos. And Dan called me, and 790 The Ticket was just starting up. So this was 2004. 560 WQAM had fended off any competitor that had come their way for, eons. And Dan called me. He goes, look, there is a group of guys that have leased this radio signal, 790. And Stugatz was the guy that was in charge of putting it all together. He found the money guys to do it and whatnot. So Dan out a little bit as I get ready for this show. I've never done radio before. And he had done a once a week show on ESPN radio from his house. And this was going to be from a studio every afternoon. I think it was 4 to 7 when we originally started. And bounced a couple ideas off me, and I said, okay, I'll listen. He goes, I didn't sign a contract. He goes, if I don't like it in the first few weeks, I'm just not going to do it. Like, I purposely did not sign a contract. But they were really building 790 around him. They had stolen Joe Rose away from 560. So they had Joe Rose in the morning and Dan in the afternoon. And they felt like, hey, we can compete with QAM with those two guys. But they needed Dan to like it. And he wouldn't sign a contract because he wasn't certain if he was going to like the daily grind of doing radio. And people have to remember, you know, in 2004, Dan was not liked at all. He was a columnist that was always negative or getting in trouble. And you know, he was a Jay Mariotti type. He had never allowed himself to get known because you didn't really know your writers. So he was not the most popular guy in the world, but he certainly had a following. So he does his first show on 790. I was not the executive producer. Does his first show. And it was painful. And I talked to him after the show, calls me after the show. And what do you think? And I go, well, this is. I have a second show. He calls me. What do you think? Well, this is. And then after about 1 week, he said, I need you to come work with me on the show. And so then he had Stugatz reach out to me. And Stugatz said, Dan, I didn't know him. And he's like, Dan says that you've really, you know, he needs your help right now. And they had sunk so much money into this thing. They didn't know if they were going to make any money, you know, on 790 and whatnot. And so Stugatz was like, how about a 3-month consultancy? We'll pay you for a 3-month consultancy. And I was like, nah, if I'm doing it, I got to do it. Like either you're going to pay me and I'm going to be the executive producer, but I don't want to do a consultancy. And so they hired me as the executive producer. And the only reason that it worked and that I did it, because I didn't know enough about talk radio or sports, was Dan saying to me, we're not doing sports radio. We're doing radio. And you know radio. And he said, so forget that it's sports. He goes, the conversations that we've been having in our dorm rooms and our off-campus apartments and on the phone, the conversations we've been having for years, we're just going to do that on the radio. And you know radio. And so all the stuff that I thought I knew about radio, I had to relearn because even like at the beginning of the show, if you remember, you know, we had an interview, you remember the SUI? We used to have a thing called the SUI where if it was a bad interview, we'd fire off a sound so listeners we knew that it was a bad interview. Yeah. But that came about from, you know, interview happened and we go to commercial break and we come back from commercial break, we go on the air and Dan starts talking, boy, that interview was bad. I am sorry. And I'm behind the glass going like this. and he's like looking at me quizzically. I'm like, we get to commercial break. And he's like, what are you doing? And I go, you don't say an interview was bad. And he says, why? And I go, I don't know. You just don't. And he's like, well, that's stupid, isn't it? He's like, did you think it was bad? I said, yeah. He goes, I thought it was bad. Don't you think the listeners thought it was bad? And I said, yeah. He goes, well, then we're going to acknowledge that it was bad. And it was like mind blowing to me, you know? And so I had to relearn a lot of radio. So thank God that he had the sway that he had to do that because Dan, you know, they needed him 790. So he could do no wrong. If he wanted to break every rule, then he was allowed to break every rule, every norm, every standard in radio because he came with that power where he didn't need the job. He had a great job as the lead columnist for the Miami Herald. And so they needed him a lot more than he needed them. And so it allowed us this wide berth to try things that hadn't been done and experiment with things that I had thought of, but didn't ever have permission to do because I was never the big man on the totem pole. So yeah, it was eye-opening. It was mind-blowing.
No, that's brilliant. I remember first listening and being like, I haven't heard anything like this before on the air. And it is that kind of awareness, like you said, you know, acknowledge the bad interview. And also the fact that he was able to, you know, have the ability to break those rules. Like, I think that is honestly what you're looking at TV now. Why Netflix and places like HBO, they're excelling and putting out such good stuff is because they let the people do what they do. They're not in there with a million different notes. And
think about the game change in television. Like, this was always understood. you air a show once, and if someone misses it, they miss it. They might see it again in the summer. And if you have a series, you air it once a week over the course of 18 weeks, and that's the way you build viewership. Think about, all of a sudden, Netflix comes out, they release a show, 25 episodes released all at once, watch it when you want, how you want. And for years, everyone had said, that's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. You know, there were a lot of changes. Howard Stern made a lot of changes because when he had so much power in radio, you know, we know being in the business, they say, you know, you can't have a commercial break more than 6 minutes long, right? Commercial break, 6 minutes long. And when you need to break for your commercials, you break for your commercials. And Stern, for many years, when he got uber popular, decided if the show is going well, or I'm in a great interview, I am not going to be constrained by the norms of radio, by what some sales director and some program director says. It doesn't matter how good it is right now. You need to break. He goes, I'll go as long as I have to. So a lot of times Stern would have a segment that was an hour and 20 minutes long, and then he would take a commercial break that was 22 minutes long.
Yeah.
Unheard of in radio. But damn, you can't argue with it. It kind of worked.
Yeah.
You know? Sometimes it takes people the ability to think outside the box, but the only people that get that birth to do something outside the box are the people that have the power already. And so it's like a Howard Stern or a Dan who's needed by a radio station more than he needs the radio station, or an upstart broadcast company like Netflix that doesn't have to follow the rules of network television. And then all of a sudden they find out, hey, this might be the more appropriate way of releasing content. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. No, most definitely, because I feel like that's what a lot of people got good ideas and trying to think of ways to get out there. But like you said, there's kind of this built-in thing that this is the way you do, and you have to have clout or some sort of something in order to get that to or get the people that you're working for to allow you to do that, take those chances. When now, especially in this business, I mean, if you're looking at a fraction of a loss of potential profit, that is going to be something that the suits are going to be worried about until you can't do that, you know. And if you're, and that's not going to allow you like time to grow if you are trying to do those things. Like Conan, if Conan came on the air, I don't know if in today's climate he'd be given the opportunity to build up that audience. And you could see, obviously it worked out well. The guy's got an insane following, but man, it took years to do that. So how do you kind of reconcile people who are told not to take chances, but find the time and places when to do that?
Well, so there's a reality to it. I love talking pie in the sky. You know, the content creator should be able to have complete control of what he wants to do. But the reality is, now I've been on the sales side. I worked in radio sales for 5 or 6 years. I know how difficult it is to make a sale. And a lot of air personalities don't know that. They go, what I'm doing is so good. I mean, you walk into a business, because we walk into a place, everybody's always happy to see us and whatever, but they don't know what it takes. So I know how difficult it is to do sales because I did it for a long time. I know how it is to be a program director because I was program director for a long time. And so I do think that a lot of people, while it's, again, fun to talk pie in the sky and fun to talk about a Howard Stern who's got, you know, that much power to do whatever he wants to do and change the game, the reality is companies are there to turn a profit.
Sell
and the people, plastic. And the people that are there in order to ensure that the company turns a profit is interested in turning a profit. And so the general manager at a radio station, whether this is right or wrong, they don't give a shit if I'm the next great radio thing, because it's not going to affect them in the long run. What's going to affect them is if they make their numbers monthly. And that's why there's always this, you know, push and pull between sales and programming. But the funny thing is, I'm not one of these, you know, pie in the sky programming guys. Sales doesn't know what they're doing, and they shouldn't infringe on anything. Like, that's BS. This is a business.
Yeah.
And so if you can't, you know, wrap your head around or reconcile, like you said, if you can't reconcile that you are working for a company that's trying to make money, you will not go anywhere.
Right.
And that's the reality of it. So, I made that reconciliation a long while ago. Like, I'm not Dan Le Batard and I'm not Howard Stern. So when the company tells me to go interview the president of this company because it's going to be great for advertising and it may not sound great on your show, whatever, I don't give two thoughts about it. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, I work for this company. I have no problem. I have no problem with that. So I do think a lot of people that are just getting into it, they no, I would never compromise hey, okay, if you don't want to compromise, like, you're probably not going to go anywhere. And that's the
not compromise yourself into not having a roof over your head.
And so the truth of the matter is you compromise yourself a little bit so that you can garner some power to be able to maybe do some stuff that you wouldn't have been able to do if you didn't have it. But
the Picasso quote, what is it? Learn the rules as a professional so you can break them as an artist. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of people refuse to learn the rules because they watch Private Parts with Howard Stern, or they hear Howard Stern talk about, this program director wanted me to do this. But they don't know the whole story.
Yeah.
Like, Howard Stern did the remotes just like he doesn't do now, but he did them at the beginning of his career.
Grinding.
He worked shitty time shifts that I did and anyone else beginning in radio, I used to do midnight to 6 a.m. up in Fort Pierce, and everybody did their time, and you do your stuff, like, but that's the reality, like the notion that, well, I'm the greatest content manufacturer of all time. And so, it's not reality. It's not grounded in reality. So you got to find that happy medium.
And I think a lot of people in our business, that's kind of something that they fall back on, because if it doesn't work out, they convince themselves, I was just too edgy, man. They couldn't handle me or whatever. It's like, well, if it helps you sleep at night, but that might not necessarily be true.
I say this all the time. This is the only business that people walk around having gotten fired as a badge of honor. And I'm not talking about layoffs. Layoffs happen. I'm talking about there are myriad radio personalities that talk about, I've been fired 6 times, man. Fucking great, man. They never know what to, and I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. People can't believe I haven't been fired since I started, in sports radio since 2004. It's a long, in 16-year run.
That is impressive, dude. That is very impressive.
Is crazy. It's insane. Does that mean I'm so good? No, I'm a rule follower. Like, I have the company's best interest at heart with everything that I do. I really do. And it's paid off for me. But this business, it is crazy how many people love the notion that they're out of work because they got fired again.
They romanticize it.
Idiot. And it's sports talk hosts a lot, and they point at anyone that gets cut from a team, or that's a locker room cancer, he sucks. And then when it comes to them, though, for me,
that's a really good
great
point.
Though it shows you how good I am.
Yeah.
The number, I'm not kidding you, is one of the things that bothers me about this industry most. A lot of people in this industry will tell you about the number of times they've been fired as a bragging point. And I'm like, you got it backwards, Jack. Like, either you weren't important enough and they found a reason. Like, you could be a locker room cancer in sports. If you're good enough, they're going to keep you around.
Yeah.
And so I think, like you said, a lot of people will rationalize, helps them sleep at night, and it's like, maybe there's a reason you're bouncing from station to station to station. Yeah. Now, monetary layoffs are a completely different thing. And that's
that happens to the best
of the world that we live in. I know I used to work at radio stations, and there were 30 air personalities on the payroll. And then all of a sudden that became 18 personalities on the payroll. And then all of a sudden that became 9 personalities on the payroll. And now, you just need to listen to any radio station. I know you do. Like, you see, there's not a lot of people that are working on radio, on air anymore. Yeah. And I don't think that that's going to reverse anytime soon. No. I think it's going to continue going in the direction of less and less.
Well, again, that makes me even happier to know that you and Crowder are still doing your things. Crowder is really good people.
Amazing.
When I first met him, it was at an Intercom picnic, and I think I got there a little late, and all they had was Bud Light left, and I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna drink this Bud. And he had his own personal cooler with craft beers in there. He's like, come on, big dog, let me get you up. And I was like, okay, he didn't even know me. I had some good conversation. Whenever I saw that guy, always had good conversation. Really good dude. Just happy to see you guys doing your thing, man. Honestly, like, I know a lot of people will say that to your face and be like, so happy, Hawk, that you've got your job on the air in the afternoon and drive time. For real, man, could not be happier. Couldn't happen to better people. Really just excited for you guys. And I really hope that you guys are going to be on the air for many, many years to come. Like, for real.
Thank you, man. That's genuinely appreciated. It's been a long, fun run. Crowder is the best. The entire show that I have right now is as much fun as I have ever had doing radio. I love it. We talk all day, all night on our text thread, and it comes across on the air. Like, I've been part of good shows and I've been part of bad shows. You know it. You know it when you're doing it. Even shows by themselves, when you would do a show.
Sure.
Some shows you'd have and you'd go, that was a good show. Other shows you'd get out of there and you'd go, it wasn't this, something didn't click or whatever. But yeah, this crew is really fun. And but yeah, it's crazy. I'll tell you what's crazy is people saying, you know, I've listened to you for a long time. Like, all of a sudden you go, wow, I'm 50. This is, dude, things are moving too fast, man.
I just turned 35 on Thursday, and
baby.
Yeah, I know. I'm just like, this midlife, getting around that midlife section there. And I feel like, obviously I love my 30s. I try and tell my friends who are in their 20s, I'm like, it's like your 20s, you just have your shit more together. It's awesome. You're going to love your 30s, and you don't feel that different, but you can I'm starting to get that little extra, like, just wake up the back and little things that are just
all the time.
Dude, what's up with the
rolled my ankle playing basketball with my son yesterday.
Like, mandatory.
Like, you can roll an ankle when you're younger and you're like, whatever.
Oh, that's
when
cool.
you
I just
roll
my
an
ankle
ankle when
walking.
you're 50, like, just the way that you hit the ground is so awkward. And I know my kid wants to laugh, but he saw I was in like real pain.
And you're not instilling him with a ton of confidence, just
just life changes, man.
Well, I saw really quick. I saw on your Twitter page, like, the header pick. When and how often have you performed stand-up comedy? I didn't know that.
That's funny. So it was the 9-year anniversary of it yesterday.
For real?
August 24th, 9 years ago, I made my improv debut.
Nice.
So I used to do a character on Le Batard show called Marc Hochman, sports comic.
Hackman.
Well, that was a second character.
Oh, okay.
There was another character before that called Marc Hochman, sports comic. And I would get on, and Mike Ryan would have like a rim shot sound effect or whatever, and I would do the hackiest of hacky jokes, right? I can't even think of one offhand. But really like, hey, like vaudeville zingers. And this dude reached out to me, and I had people reach out to me before. You're funny. You should do stand up and whatever. This dude hit me at the right time. Real professional comedian named Dave Williamson, lives in Los Angeles now. Reached out to me, goes, I'm a big fan of the show. You are just a natural comedian. You should do a show at the Improv. And I book the Improv shows, and you should do a show at the Improv. And he's like, will you at least have lunch with me? I always say no to this stuff. Always. Don't know what possessed me. Said yes. Met him. And I put together this whole show at the Improv. So it was Marc Hochman, sports comic. Dave Williamson was the headliner. There was another guy named Dave Siegel, who's gone on to, he's like one of the writers on Anderson Cooper and whatnot, but real funny stand-up comedian. And then Roy and Ron McGill, I had them do live sets each and whatever. I go out there, and I'm obsessive over performance and whatnot. So the month and a half leading up to it was really an awful time in my life. Night was great. I killed. It was great. But the lead up to it, because I was so stressed about it, I don't like to really embarrass myself in anything that I do. And it was amazing. It was better than anything I could have ever expected, The response was unbelievable. The guy who managed the improv, not Dave Williamson who booked it, but the guy who managed the improv said, we'd love to have you out here every week. That was unbelievable what you just did. And that was the only time I ever did it. I was like, you know what? I cannot put myself through that ever again. It was that torturous to me. I had physical pain leading up to it because I wanted it to go well. I didn't want to flop, and I was supposed to do 5 minutes and I did 22 minutes. I got up there, you get a microphone in my hand, and I was rolling. It was one of the best nights of my life, but I never did it again.
That's so great, man. I didn't know that. I had Steve Byrne on the podcast recently, or I was about 2 months ago, and I told him, I was like, yeah, I'm putting on these comedy shows here in South Florida. The next one I was going to put on, which was going to be like March 19th or something, right after we all got closed down, I was going to actually finally go on and do 5 minutes up top. I was like, yeah, man, it's a real bummer. Everything's shut down now. And he happened to have some shows coming up at Miami Improv. And he's like, oh, well, that just means you're going to have to open up for me this weekend. And I was like, for real, dude? He's like, yeah, man, just show up and let them know that you're there to do a guest spot. And over the next 2 days, man, I had put together, about like a type 5 over the last 10 years or so, just on notes in my phone, like write down little things like, if I ever were to do stand up, this is what I want to remember. So I had all those notes in there. I had kind of like a type 5, and I tried to talk myself out of it for 48 hours straight. I was like, because I'm like you, man, I don't want to go up there and embarrass myself. I thought that it would go well. I thought it could go well, but I'm like, you don't know what to expect, especially when you're going into their dojo, man. Like, we talk on the air and we're used to it, but when it comes to remembering an act and having those beats down and the rhythm and everything that means so much to us, I'm like, I don't know. But I'm like, if I don't do this, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life and say, you had Steve Byrne ask you if you wanted to open for him and you didn't do it. Like, what the hell is so he talked me into it and I did it, and it went pretty well, man. Like, it was a Sunday night crowd and everything, but I'm so happy I did it. And I'm kind of in the same boat where I'm like, I don't know if I can do that to myself for 10 years to try and work my way through and getting better at being a stand-up. I love comedians so much. I love being around comedians. They're some of my favorite people. And that's probably what would want me, urge me to do it more than anything. But dude, it's stressful.
If you don't mind bombing, like, then you're much better off. And any real good comedian will tell you you're going to bomb.
And that's like, one of the things when they get better is they don't.
One of the things that stuck with me was Dave Williamson, this comedian, said to me before I went on, just so you know, either your first performance or your second performance is going to be the worst night of your life. And what he was saying was, one of them's going to go really well, one of them's going to go really poorly. And the first night was so good. Like, when I tell you it was one of the greatest nights of my life, I said, well, I know the next one is going to be a complete bomb. I cannot put myself through that. Like, this was too good. And so that's when I was like, yeah, done.
I get it, man. I get it. Real quick, dude, you have your own fucking burger at Miami Subs, man. How the hell did that happen? I remember when this happened, I was like, is this actually, how the hell did this guy work this out?
That was a highlight. So that was the owner and marketing. Was it the owner? I don't know. Someone at Miami Subs. They had 32 locations at the time. I was doing the morning show, and they said, would you consider a namesake burger or something like that? Or maybe it was my idea. And so I came up with this idea where I would put a Funyun on a burger. Problem with Miami Subs was, 32 locations, all the different franchisees, it was really hit or miss as to whether the burger was going to be any good, if they were actually going to have a bag of Funyuns in the place to put it on the burger and whatnot. But it was a huge, successful ad campaign and fun for me. It disappeared. My relationship with Miami Subs ended when I left 790, went to 560. And so the Hochman burger 2.0, if you will, is available now at Tucker Duke's Lunchbox, which has 2 locations, Deerfield Beach and Boca Raton. But those guys are like actual gourmet chefs that run that place.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Hochman burger there is completely different. So it was supposed to be a 1 month special. And now it's on the permanent menu. And I get the coupon clipper at home, and Tucker Dukes advertises in them, and they've got the menu, and I see the Hochman burger there, and I think it's so cool. It's something about a guy having a burger named after him. There's like this real feeling of accomplishment, although you've done nothing, but there's a feeling of accomplishment when you have a burger named after you. But the one at Tucker Dukes, it's got the burger, and then it's got chili, onions, shredded cheddar, and sour cream and Fritos. And it's like a Frito pie. I don't know if you ever heard of a Frito pie, but it's something that's very popular in the South. Where they would actually take a bag of Fritos and essentially put chili and sour cream and stuff in the bag, mash up the bag, and then you just eat it out of the bag.
What?
So it's almost like a Frito pie on a burger, but this thing is like phenomenal.
Okay. I gotta go check that out. I love
Change
that,
your
man.
life. Change your life.
So you said that's a highlight. Okay. In your business, I know that you've probably had quite a few, and actually I can think of one in particular, but I want to ask and hear your thoughts. What's your most surreal moment, man, when you were looking around in a room and saying, I can't believe I'm having dinner with Dan Marino, or I'm on the Miami Heat parade for the championship?
Oh, the Heat parade.
What's your most surreal moment?
That was probably it. I probably my most surreal moment was being on stage at the Improv and owning the crowd, because my entire life, if anybody needed a speech at a wedding or a bar mitzvah, I was always the guy. Loved owning a crowd. That's I get off on that. Like anyone that can hold a microphone and just control the crowd. And I didn't know if I'd be able to. It is euphoric, and so I didn't know if I could do that at a comedy show. So that was surreal to me, like sitting up there and doing that, throwing out the first pitch at a Marlins game. That was fun as hell. I really enjoyed that. You mentioned the Heat parade. So Stugatz and I were doing 2 days on 790. So we were doing an afternoon drive. This was the first year of the big three. And we were such huge Heat fans, as all of South Florida was. And the Heat, because 790 was the flagship station, they asked, do you want to be in the parade? Do you want to, and you want to take your family? So it was me, my wife, my son, and they put us in a convertible, just the three of us. And so, there was a bus in front of us that had players. There was a bus behind us. They had different sponsors and stuff throughout the parade route. But to be on that parade route was surreal. I mean, it was so celebratory, and my friends. I'm trying to think of my mom. Like, it was broadcast live on NBA TV, so they were seeing it out of market, and you saw us like we were just part of the parade. That was surreal. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I always said there was a magical thing of, like, because I would book a lot of the guests for Dan's show. I book a lot of guests for my own show now, but just talking to someone on the phone. But, now I get to talk to them. So someone comes on and we do a 15-minute interview, and I get such a kick out of it, whoever it might be, some athlete that I've, I got a text today from Cornbread Maxwell, and it might not be a big deal, or like to text with Brady Quinn and Gino Torretta and just guys, like, I get a thrill out of that. But when I was booking Dan's show, and I didn't have any kind of experience in, radio the way that Dan did, Dan had been around top level athletes or whatever. Just the couple minutes that I would talk to a guest before I would put them on the air with Dan. Oh, hey, Hulk Hogan. Yeah, thank you for calling in on time. And I'd be like, talking to
no problem,
Hulk
brother.
Hogan.
You're like, oh my God, he called me brother.
So I was at an event once at somewhere in Miami. Someone came up to me and he said, I've got OJ Simpson's number if you want it. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll take it. Took the number, and he had been found not guilty, obviously, in the murder trial, but he had been found guilty in the civil trial by the estates, right? And this was before he went to jail for the Vegas stuff. So he was living in Miami, and I called him out of the blue. And sure as shit, he answered the phone. It was unmistakably OJ. OJ, yeah.
Juice.
My name is Marc Hochman. I'm a producer for a radio show in Miami. Cut me off. Hey man, appreciate the phone call, but I'm not doing any radio interviews. I'm not doing any of that stuff. And I said, okay. I was just calling to check. My host Dan Lebitard wanted me to reach out to you. And he goes, "Oh, Dan Lebitard?" He goes, "That guy's the only guy that was fair to me throughout all of this stuff." He's like, "I would do it for Dan."
Holy shit.
Yeah. And I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay, we can tape something." So I think the show aired every day 4 till 7 at that point. And so I said, "We can tape something 2:30 on Friday." And he said, "Okay, what's the number? What's the studio?" I said, "This is the studio number." He said, "I will call you 2:30 on Friday." And I called him, leading up to the thing, did not answer calls or texts or whatever. And I remember sitting there with Dan, 2:25 going, is this guy going to call in? Mm-hmm. And sure as shit, 2:30 phone rang and it was OJ. He did a full hour with Dan. That was wild.
Damn, dude, that is a hell of a story.
Yeah,
I was just watching they've got it on Netflix now with Cuba Gooding Jr. and David Schwimmer.
Yeah.
An incredible docuseries that was, but man, I mean,
and you run that, like, there's that thought, should we have talked to him? Like, like, is it unseemly? I mean, you're literally using an alleged murderer.
Well, technically,
ratings.
He was in the court of law.
Right.
Know, the court of opinion is
right.
a whole lot different. Yeah. But in the court of law, I see where you would think. Like,
but it definitely. I mean, this was within the first 6-7 months probably of the radio show, so it really definitely helped put Dan on the map locally for, like, wow, look at the big guests that will appear on a local radio show. That's how Mike Ryan ended up being a fan of the show, and then became an intern, and then became the executive producer when I left. Mike said to me when he was a kid and he was listening, he's listening to this local radio, and he used to listen to Hank Goldberg or whatever. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, Dan's got Grant Hill on the air. Yeah. And Mike's like, Grant Hill on a local radio? Like, that doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't happen. And so he became a huge fan of the show. And that's it. Yeah. I mean, that he changed radio down here. And I think he changed radio, period, sports radio for sure. But yeah, it was like that booking of OJ Simpson for me was like, whoa, what just happened here? Like, there are people calling him from all over the place. And it wasn't anything I did. The guy just knew Dan's name. And so, but there was that moment where we're just on the phone.
Dude, that's a great story, man. I love it. All right, dude, before I get you out of here, we got to talk a little sports and a few other things, but let's talk some sports.
We've come too far. There's too much to lose. It's not just keep our composure. Playoffs?
Can't do it.
Hello?
All right, dude, let's put you on the spot, Mr. Multi-year contract. I was wondering if we could have a little combo with South Florida's best damn beat writer, Mr. Hackman. Mr. Hackman, how you doing? What do you think of this new Heat team?
You're gonna have to give me a little space here, because I haven't done this character in so long.
I told you I'm putting you on the spot.
God,
what do you think about this young, hungry Heat team, Mr. Hackman?
Well, I will tell you that guys like Kendrick Nunn, Tyler Hero, they've got the fire in their eyes. They lead the league in fire in their eyes. So, as we've been saying in South Florida for a long time, since this whole thing began, esta noche somos mantequilla. And I think everyone in South Florida and outside of South Florida knows how that translates.
How does that translate?
Dude, do you speak Spanish? Do you know what esta noche somos
mantequilla
gringo,
bro. I'm a gringo.
That's like tonight we are all butter. and just total nonsense.
Oh, dude, I love it. I had to at least try. I had to get him out just for a second. What do you think about this
all-time classic character?
What do you think about this Heat team, man? I mean, we just got the sweep last night. Looks like we're probably going to play the Bucks next, right? Second rounds. Where do you see this going?
Surprisingly, man? I was having a conversation with a buddy at the radio station this morning. Surprisingly, I'm not that scared of the Bucks.
Yeah.
I know you should be because of Giannis, but other than Giannis, there's not much there. And I could see the Heat. Boy, I don't like to call it a big three because I don't think technically it is, but Butler, Goran, and Bam Adebayo, that's a pretty potent three.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a pretty potent three.
Most
And they go deep on the bench, right? And role players. Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson can shoot the lights out. Kendrick Nunn, got his first action last night, but Kendrick Nunn can make offense. Kelly Olynyk, he can ball when he's balling. Like I'm telling you, there's something about this team that.
What's going on with Myers Leonard? We
yeah,
haven't
it's
seen
a
him.
strange scenario.
Since Crowder
Myers
came
Leonard.
in, they're trying to find like the right rotation with him.
Yeah, and the same thing with Kendrick Nunn. I mean, Kendrick Nunn was pissed up until yesterday, till he got playing time. So I think when they need Myers, they'll go to Myers, but Spo's never been shy about cycling in and out of rotations. I mean, Kelly Olynyk didn't play that much during the regular season, but he's playing really well now. Like, you can't argue with the methodology at this point, at least.
Dude, I love the culture so much. I had Eric Reed on a couple weeks ago. We were just talking about, how Bam is just like this new torchbearer, kind of like a UD or D Wade for the Miami Heat culture. I'll tell you what else, man. Like, obviously, like you said, such like a deep team. I love the attitude of these players. I am so all in on Tyler Hero.
Yeah, it's fun.
I love that kid. Love that kid. And I'm hearing all these rumors we might trade him away for Oladipo. I think that would be a mistake. I think, obviously Oladipo, great talent, but you're looking at injuries possibly there. And
yeah, he didn't look great during this series for sure.
Hungry dude, man. I mean, I think that's exactly what you want when you're a draft pick.
Yeah, no, he's fun. The team seems to get along really well. Jimmy Butler needs to be in a situation where he is, without question, the alpha dog leader. They all allow him to be that. And that's a big deal for a guy like him. So I think the team, like the personnel makeup of the team is pretty special. I'm very interested to see this Milwaukee series because I could absolutely see it being Boston, Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yes.
And that would be fun.
Dude, that would be fun. I mean, they gave us a tough time in the regular season. It was nice to kind of get that one win before the end there and try and, kind of get that monkey off the back. And it will be interesting in a full games. I really do think we are built for the playoffs, though, in a 7-game series, best of 7. I see us lining up really well, especially in the East. I mean, I think it's possible we could come out. I do think it's more likely. I think that the Celtics, I mean, Kemba Walker, all those guys, I do see that being potential matchup issue for us. But God, man, I just love this team so much.
I just don't see them getting rolled by anybody.
No.
They can hang with them. They're not getting rolled. Indiana got rolled.
When
like
we
they,
were, when we're
they just weren't in it. Yeah.
When we're clicking, man, I mean, Jesus, we are number 2 3-point team in the whole league. When Duncan is going, and Dragic, man, that's another guy who doesn't get enough credit on this team. Just like a real machine that keeps this thing going. Just impressive, man. I love this team. Really curious to see where.
Yeah, they're a fun team to root for. Just fun team to root for.
Yes, most definitely. They're almost like you remember the Marlins teams back in the day? Yeah. They were so fun to watch.
Teams,
Dontrell and all those guys. It kind of like that a little bit. I'm loving it, man. I'm loving it.
It is kaboom time here in Miami.
All right, so let's talk about our little Dolphins, man. Again, your talk with Brady Quinn yesterday, that was great. So we just got word that we're going to be able to attend these Dolphins and Canes games. They said about 15,000 per game, right? And they're going to spread them all out. That bottom section is going to be tarped off. They're selling ads for those sections, I heard. What do you think about this upcoming season? Tua, what do you think realistic expectations? Obviously, we've got a young team, so I don't think getting expectations high would be too wise, but what do you think?
I'm really impressed with what they put together, But this is so unprecedented what's going on with no preseason, very few practices and pads. You know, if you watch Hard Knocks, you can see it's a whole different ball game.
Dude,
Training
Aaron
camp.
Donald, that guy's body. Sorry.
Holy shit, right?
Jesus Christ, I was watching it last night.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's just unprecedented. So I think, you know, when you talk about the AFC East, if New England's always going to be competitive, I don't think they have nearly the weapons that they've had in previous years. And I don't believe in Adam Gase and Sam Darnold and the Jets, so prove me otherwise. Ooh. I do like the Bills. I think the Bills are a decent team, so I think Josh Allen's a guy that you have to contend with. But I think if I had to pick which team in the AFC East I would prefer to be, you know, for the next 5-10 years, right now, I would tell you the Dolphins. I think with Tua Tagovailoa, they are going to be set at quarterback. I think they've got real weapons. I think they've got a good coaching. Well, I shouldn't say coaching staff because the coordinators are new, but they've got a good head coach. I think you saw some real promise last season. So I'm in on the Dolphins. Does it translate this season? I don't know. I'm so confused by what we're going to see this season that I don't know. But I'm in on them. I think they're going to be a really good team. I think they have finally turned the corner where it's not Band-Aids and whatnot.
Yes.
To me, it all begins
Orange
and ends
carpets
with a quarterback.
Yeah.
And I think they finally have a quarterback. Like, what a luxury to be Kansas City, right? And they just signed a 10-year deal with Patrick Mahomes. What a luxury, and we knew it through the Marino years, but what a luxury to have a quarterback, a really good one that you know is going to be the quarterback for a decade, say. When you have that, everything else is easier. And I think that might be Tua. So
I hope so, man. I really do hope. I like his demeanor. I like the kid. I think obviously our O-line always seems to be most suspect, but we're still going on that. We got a lot of dudes in the draft.
Yep.
I don't hate our backfield, man. Lightning Thunder with Breida and Howard.
I
like that backfield. We got great
Preston
position
Williams
players.
Can be a good receiver.
Exactly.
But, you saw what he was before he got injured. If
Yeah.
Devontae can do again what he did last season, you start to go, wow, maybe they do have some weapons.
Taking that next step, man. Our defense, I mean, outside of our corners, you got Byron Jones, Xavier Howard, maybe our D-line, but we still have some holes there, hoping some of those young bucks can step up, take advantage of that. I want to talk to you really quick about the Canes too. Rhett Lashley taking over the offense, installing that spread offense that, like I said, I think that's been a long time coming. But we got Ed Reed, the new chief of staff, helping with a ton of recruiting. What are you hearing? I mean, everything I'm hearing is saying that this season is a go in the ACC. I would think that they would have discouraged them from continuing practices and whatnot if they weren't thinking it was going to happen. What are your thoughts on the upcoming?
Yeah, I mean,
season?
obviously, as a football fan, I hope it happens, but obviously, the safety of players and students is paramount. I saw yesterday, University of Miami has had 140 since they went back to campus last week. That's a lot. I saw today, University of Alabama has had 540 COVID cases since they went back. That's a lot. So I do think the season will start. Will it finish? I don't know. I will tell you from what I see, I'm as excited about this Hurricanes team as I've been in a long time. Had they been able to keep Gregory Rousseau, then you're talking about, I mean, maybe the best defensive player you've seen in the longest. So that obviously is a little bit of a punch in the gut, but the offense, like, I'm so excited to see De'Ara King out there and see Rhett Lashley do what he's brought in to do. Manny Diaz through commits and the transfer portal, they addressed the kicking problem.
No, I was gonna say the kicking problem.
You know, there's some legit hope that this is a quality team. They're gonna have to, you know, this is the second season in a row that they've won the transfer portal. And it has to commit. It has to turn into on-field wins, right? It has to translate into on-field stuff, which it didn't last season. But I got my fingers crossed for this season.
Well,
I like Manny Diaz a lot.
I do too. I do too. And I know a lot of people talking smack about that last season. And obviously the record was not well. We fell apart at the end there. But right up until the end of the season, like Duke game, there were a handful of plays from being undefeated. They were all 7-point games, 6-point games.
A lot of it came
6-point
down the
games.
kicking game. I mean, really.
A lot of it did. And of course, people from the outside are going to say, oh, well, it's more than that. Listen, if we had a decent kicker, that year looks a whole lot different. So going into this year, I mean, I feel good. I just feel so bad for those guys like Shaq Quarterman, Michael Pinckney, who just gave it their all. They came in, had this great defense, only to, I mean, you know what it's like when you see these offenses that can't get anything going, and the defense is just like, okay, we got to go back out there by the second half. They're gassed, and that seemed to be a lot of what was happening there, where our offense just wasn't able to keep us in games, but our defense, even with all that lack of offense, somehow still kept us in there. And even though we have some losses on D this year, I feel pretty good about, like, again, I just hope that the season can finish. I don't know how they're going to work this out, where some of these conferences trying to do spring ball, and if they're going to have like a co-national champion, how the hell that's going to work, I guess we'll find out.
Above my pay grade.
Yeah, right. A little above the pay grade. And I guess the only thing left to talk about, Marlins. I mean,
I actually find them fun. I really do. I've watched more Marlins games this season than I've watched in 5 years. I like the 60-game season because it makes every game a little bit more meaningful, and I like some of the characters on this team. There's Sixto Sanchez, who pitched over the weekend for the first time, who's supposed to be the next big thing in the rotation. He looked good. So I like the Marlins. I love Don Mattingly. I think he's a great manager. I think he's a great guy. And I've got my fingers crossed that they're viable.
I'm coming around. I think that, the wounds of Jeffrey Loria and I mean,
those wounds run deep.
They run deep, man. And I never taken out on the players, try and keep it all in perspective. But as far as, getting me back to that hardcore Marlins fan, every game watching it, I'm not back there yet. But I really hope that we're getting there. I think that I've got some faith in Derek Jeter. I don't think that he wants to look like an idiot here in Miami. He's got some
guy
pressure.
knows baseball, so
yeah. So we should be able to, second in NL East now, 6th in NL, 15th overall. I mean, we're getting there, dude. Right now, not a whole lot to talk about. Like you said, some good pitching. I don't know. The Inter Miami CF just got their first win. I mean, that's kind of a step in the right.
I don't follow soccer too much, but yeah, I'm excited for them, and I hope, again, that's another team where I hope they're viable. I hope that they get embraced.
Most definitely. All right, dude. Let's switch it up a little bit. You feel good about our sports talk? I got like one or two quick things here to do, and I'll let you go. You cool with that?
Yeah.
All right, cool. We're gonna do something called Hater Hall of Fame. I like the show to be positive, right? Obviously, especially in this time. Trying to keep the vibe up, but it's also unhealthy to keep those negative emotions locked inside. One way or another, they're going to come out. It just depends on whether it's a healthy or unhealthy way. So I try and provide my guests with like a healthy platform to talk about what's pissing them off today. So we're going to play a little game called Hater Hall of Fame.
I hate you guys.
I hate you. I don't even know you.
You're tacky and I hate you.
What's pissing you off today, Mark?
Not much pissing me off today. I do a segment today called Cheers 2, where we talk about something that we're enjoying. So I'm in a different frame of mind. Like I had to give some thought today for my segment, Cheers 2.
Well,
what I'm happy about.
I would argue that this makes you feel better if you get it out. That's kind of the idea. And you might not have anything to piss you off. Maybe it's something with yourself, some behavior that people are exhibiting. What's nothing going on that you have an opinion on, Mr. Marc Hochman?
I mean, I have a pretty good time with whatever I do. There is none.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Honestly, and Crowder and I, we tell you on the show all the time, like, we just like to laugh and have fun, but that's really kind of my personality off the air as well. We very rarely delve into the serious, politics. Does it annoy me? Yeah. Do I give it the breath to allow it to, manifest itself into anger? Not really. I mean,
Yes.
I don't like what's going on in the country and in a lot of arenas, but my thought is there's always more good people than bad, but there's always going to be some bad, and that's the reality of it. So
I like that perspective, man.
yeah,
And yeah, you don't have to go on any hateful tirade. Believe it or not, when I ask this to people, again, it's all in the goal is to keep it positive.
Yeah.
But sometimes you do need to get that out, and I like to provide that for people. But if you don't have any of those feelings, Mr. Hochman, come on, I'm not going to make you sit there and think of
what
things
could
to
be
get
so
pissed
bad?
Off about.
It's a beautiful South Florida day.
All right, I like that answer.
Pool beckoning me outside. Life is good.
Didn't really help the segment out a whole lot, but I like your answer. All right, we're going to do mental reps questionnaire, and I'll get you out of here.
Pop quiz, hot shot.
Why so serious?
What's in the box?
What does Marcellus Wallace look like?
What do you mean funny? Funny how? How am I funny?
Answer the question, Claire.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Is Darth Vader my father?
For real, B? I want answers.
Without a good question, a good answer has no place to go. It's time for the mental reps questionnaire.
All right, you like those movies?
I do.
Saw you talk on a couple of them. All right, if you could meet anyone, current or historical, and spend the day picking their brain, who would it be?
Guess I would go Michael Jordan. Never met him. Grew up in Chicago. That guy was my dude, was my hero. And, watched The Last Dance. I would love to spend time with that guy.
That's a good answer. I like that. If you could have one round trip ticket in a time machine, when and where would you go?
Ooh, it's a good one. So we talked about this on the air the other day because I said, we were talking about time machines, and I said, I would go right back to 1987. Like, I love the late 80s. I was in my prime. And Crowder's like, why the fuck would you waste time going backwards? Like, don't you want to see something that's going to be going on in, 2250 or whatever? So I don't know. I'd have to give that real serious thought. But man, did I love the 80s. I loved high school. I loved college. Like, that 8-year span of high school and college, just the best for me.
I think that the 90s were the pinnacle of all humanity. The 90s
well, you
in America.
feel about the 90s the way I do about the 80s.
I just all this hope, and I love the 80s too. It was definitely a very unique decade for sure.
MTV and I'm just telling you, for me it was.
I get that.
That is my prime. Oh, I love the 80s.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
I always wanted, when I was a kid, to be invisible. I always wanted to go in the girls' locker rooms and not be seen.
That's an honest answer, man. I like that.
But I used to think about that when I was a kid.
For
how
sure.
great would it be? I used to watch Porky's, right? And they would be sneaking, peering into the girls' locker room. And I was always like, wow, what a great thing that would be if I was invisible. I could just walk in. I don't know. I'm not like a big superhero guy, but yeah, I would take invisibility. That seems like something that would be useful.
Okay, I like that. Do you believe in ghosts? Explain.
Really? Probably not.
No, probably not.
Probably not.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, it's funny. Everybody's either got a story or they know somebody who's got a story. And maybe let's ask it this way. Multi-dimensional things that might be going on that we don't see.
No.
Copy that?
No.
All right.
It's a bunch of horse shit.
Marc Hochman,
I think that there is life on other planets and throughout the universe, no question. Do I think there's some sort of multiverse? No.
Copy that. All right. Tell me about somebody who changed your life for the better.
Somebody who changed my life for the better. More than my wife?
It could be your wife.
We talked about it on the air yesterday. If I didn't meet my wife, because when I met her, I had a little bit of credit card debt and I wasn't saving anything in my 401k. I was 25 years old. I gave this lecture on the air yesterday because I give the stock market report at 4 o'clock. At 25 years old, when I met my wife, she said, why are you carrying around credit card debt? And I said, I don't know. It just didn't seem like a big deal to me. She's like, it's crazy. You're throwing money away. You should be putting your maximum amount away in your 401k. And so anyway, 25 years ago, I did that, and she put me down the right track. And then I wanted to rent an apartment. We were going to rent an apartment. And she's like, no, let's buy a place. And without her, my life would be totally different. Totally different. We're in a situation now, I'm telling you, 25 years, two people saving a ton of money and investing in property and real estate and whatnot. I'm telling you, I said this on the air yesterday, my life would be so vastly different had I not met her. So she'd be the one.
I love it. Shout out to Lori, man.
Yeah.
Good people. Good people. What's some wisdom you can share with anyone listening who's trying to pursue their dreams working in sports radio?
Never worry. This is what my dad was not the most profound person in the world, but every now and then he would drop a nugget on me that stuck with me. And this one always did. And it was never worry about what someone else is making or what someone else's happiness is. That's not your worry. So what I applied that to for my entire life is when I would get a contract that I was satisfied with, I didn't worry, well, how am I making in comparison to X or to Y?
Is that motherfucker Channing making more?
Yeah, yeah. And it really stuck with me for a long time. Like, it doesn't matter if you're happy, if you're in a place, I don't use an agent. Everyone uses an agent to negotiate radio contracts, especially for someone like me that's been doing it for a long time and whatnot. And I don't use an agent. The reason that I don't use an agent is because I like to feel comfortable and happy with the people that I'm negotiating the deal with. And if you use an agent, generally, one side has to take the track of he's not worth a lot. The other side has to take the track of he's worth more than you think he's worth. And and I don't
intentions
need that. So,
get mixed up.
Yeah. So I really believe what my dad said was, don't worry about anybody else's happiness. Don't worry about what anybody else is making. Worry about your own.
I love that. If you had the world's attention for 30 seconds, what would you say?
Be good. I say that all the time, but we say it on the radio show all the time. Don't be a dick. Be a good person. You know the difference between good and bad. Everybody does. And sometimes that means not crowing about something you want to crow about. Sometimes that means meeting people in the middle somewhere, because what you think is the truth and what someone else thinks is the truth might be diametrically opposed. And so if you just sit there and wait till they see the truth as you see it, you'll wait for as long as you live, and real ill feelings will come from that. So you have to be a good person, but you have to look at things through the prism of others. Most people don't want to do that. If there's a lot of people saying, hey, this is the way we see things, and you don't, you at least owe it to them and yourself to say, well, why are there so many people saying that? Can I just discount that? Or do I need to take a step back and look at things through someone else's prism? And when you can do that effectively, you'll really find much more peace with the world and your surroundings, because you won't be so myopic. And that myopia is what gets people in trouble all the time, what gets the country in trouble.
I love it. Great Hochman advice there, dude, to wrap her up. How do you feel, man? You feel like we covered everything? You feel good about it?
Ready to rock and roll. I mean, I can talk with the best of them. So.
I know you can. All right, dude, I got the quote of the week and I'll let you go. This is from Thomas Wolfe. If a man has talent and cannot use it, he has failed. If he has a talent and uses only half of it, he has partly failed. If he has a talent and learns somehow to use the whole of it, he has gloriously succeeded and has a satisfaction and triumph few men ever know. And I feel like you are, like you said, you've been able to, the juice is worth the squeeze, all that hard work that you've done over the years, and you've been able to take the talent that you have, make the most of it, and create this wonderful life for you and your family. I think that that's a beautiful thing. I hope that you sleep good at night, knowing that you're doing good, helping people get through tough times in their life, being a positive to people who are out there dealing with freaking traffic or work or jobs, and they can count on the fact that they can put you on the afternoons and be made to feel better, have somebody who understands. And I think that you really do a great job, and you're a great asset to this community, man. And you're a great guy. I miss seeing you around campus. I hope to see you around soon, and we got to keep up and catch up at some point later on. But thanks again for coming on, man. I really appreciate you coming on with me today, bud.
My pleasure, Brian. I'm gonna give you a virtual hug.
Oh, virtual hug. Oh, virtual hug, dude. Appreciate that, man. I know.
Appreciate
oh my
the
God,
kind
is
words,
that our
brother.
future? Is that our future, dude? Virtual
I hope
hugs.
not. Hope
Follow
not.
Marc Hochman on the social medias at Marc Hochman. Listen to him weekday afternoons, 2 to 6 p with Channing Crowder on 790 The Ticket or 560 The Joe. You can also listen live via the radio.com app.
What happens
and
when you turn
website.
50? You start obsessing over this. You're like, oh my God.
Oh, please. Come on. You look great, dude. 50, man. You're looking great, man. What are you talking about? It's looking svelte. All right, buddy. Always a
Brian.
pleasure. You're in the Mental Reps family now. You can come back anytime, and let's keep in touch, buddy.
All right, brother, man.
Talk to you soon, bro.
Tell me
Take
when
it
you want
easy.
to do it
Thanks
again.
again. Will do.
All right, bro.